What do Sarah Minnick of Lovely's 50/50, Brian Spangler of A Pizza Shoals, and Derek Tung of Polly G's Logan Square all have in common? Well, aside from them being on the What's Good Dough podcast, they all use Pizza Master ovens. But have you ever wondered why these top pizza makers use electric ovens, specifically Pizza Master? Today, you are in for a treat. We're talking with Lisa Wiernasz, who is an expert when it comes to Pizza Master. We're going to talk about the differences between wood-fired, gas deck ovens, and electric deck ovens. If you're looking for an electric oven, this is the episode for you because we're going to talk about how it's going to help you put out amazing pizza and a lot of it. This is one episode you're not going to want to miss. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I have today with me an amazing guest. Lisa Wiernasz is on the show, and before we get into the question, I just want to wish everyone a happy Women's Pizza Month. As I was thinking, who are the voices that are in the pizza community, in the pizza world, in the pizza life that we haven't heard from? I was like, Lisa sounds like she has some stories to tell. She brings some unique experience working in the world of pizza ovens, and so we're in for a great treat. Lisa, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Nobody else has ever invited me to tell my story, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited because I don't know. I feel like we're gonna have a lot to chat about today, and so let's kick things off and get the ball rolling. There's always this one question that I love to ask, and there's no right or wrong answer. What's good dough?
For me, good dough is a lot of different things, but I think the common denominator is it's a means or a vehicle to connect with other people. For me, it represents a connection to my past because my grandma, like many people's grandmas, were inspirational in terms of food. And my grandma, from a very, very young age, I remember baking bread with her. She made something called fried cakes, which were essentially donuts. They were made with mashed potatoes. And every time we went to her house, she would have the fried cakes. My brothers and I would visit every summer. So that kind of connection. And now in my current life, it is the vehicle for me to meet wonderful people with a shared passion of not just pizza, but bread, bagels. I think the pizza community is starting to become more diversified in terms of what they're doing in their businesses. And I think COVID really introduced opportunity to be more creative and to expand beyond pizza. So it's a connector. It connects people.
Yeah. The interest in pizza, the shared interest in pizza is connecting you and me today.
Exactly. One of I will call him my best friends now. He's my West Coast colleague, Drew. Drew and I connected through Instagram, having never known one another, and around pizza. And I think in terms of just how many relationships that I value now in my life, and the central component is pizza. I am so grateful. I never thought I would be at this stage of my life feeling this deep connection. And it's all comes down to dough, pizza dough.
It is really a strong connection, a very tight gluten network, if I may.
Yes, it is.
You say Drew, and I understand you two work together at Pizza Master, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does one even come to the realization that I should work for an electric oven distributor?
I didn't really come to that realization. It just evolved into that. When I started, the first half of my life, I was a perinatal social worker for 21 years, and I felt just as passionate about that work as I do about this work. I really felt like I was put on this planet to help people. And I left when I was extremely burned out, and I started actually working for my husband's business. He invited me to join him, and I didn't know anything about equipment, nothing. I remember being afraid to answer the phone. I remember doing certain tasks and I'd have to come home and take a nap afterwards because it felt so out of my comfort zone. That one thing led to another, and eventually he sold the company to MPM Food Equipment, and we both stayed on. And MPM Food Equipment Group is the importer and distributor for Pizza Master ovens in the United States. So I started out very slowly. I remember my very first oven that I sold in New York City. My guys, Mike and Pete Bergman from Corner Slice, they bought the very first Pizza Master oven. It was the very first one that went into New York. Very first one I sold. I was so green. They were so kind. And from there, it just built. And I really felt like this comfort. And something magical happens when I connect with somebody in the industry where I feel like we've been complete strangers. Somebody will call me up on the phone and say, hey, I made pizza. I want a pizza oven. What can you tell me? And it just feels like I've known them forever. So the conversations are comfortable. It's just very fulfilling.
You're less prone to burnout if you feel like you're at a job that is welcoming and fulfilling and fun, right?
Yes. And for me, the same skills that I used as a social worker really are the same. I mean, I think they're transferable to almost anything. I mean, you have to be a good listener. I love stories. I mean, like you have people come on and tell their stories. And it's such a privilege for me and an honor to hear people's stories every single day, whether it's on the telephone or whether they come in and we do a test bake together. Then we get to really dive deep. And I love to hear their evolution. For me, one of the guiding principles has always been, I want people to feel respected and heard. And I remember when I was a social worker, I was dealing with, I worked with teenagers, for instance, who were maybe 13 or 14 and pregnant. And they weren't necessarily respected because they are pregnant. And so for me, my mission was to make them feel valued, heard, and respected, even if I never saw them again, if I saw them once, or if I spoke to them on the phone once. And I bring that same guiding principle to what I do here, even though I'm in sales. Well, when I wake up in the morning, I don't think of myself as a salesperson. I think of myself as somebody who is there to provide information, help connect people with resources, and help realize whatever vision it is that they have. And if that vision involves an oven, then I'll them out and do my best.
I think some people, when they think of salespeople or sales reps, they think, someone's going to talk my ear off for 30 minutes about a product I may or may not want. But as someone who has worked in sales, I like to think that I did well selling cell phones. And in my current job now, it's not so much sales, but a lot of it is deep listening and then making a recommendation on how to move forward. A lot of what sales is really is just listening and truly understanding. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on, because when it comes to sales, I think it's a huge part of business that people really need to understand. And maybe you can teach us a little bit about sales.
Oh, God.
Or just like selling and connecting. And maybe you can start by talking about that first sale in New York. I'm curious.
Oh, man.
How did you even connect with those people?
I so clearly remember this because I was working for my husband and he said to me, hey, Lisa, we're going to have some guys come in from New York City. We had a Pizza Master oven in our Middletown, Connecticut office. He said, they're going to come in. They just want to see the oven. They want to check it out. And I was like, okay. I didn't know who these people were. In they come and it's Mike, Pete, and Ivan Orkin. And I recognized Ivan as they were approaching. I texted my son, who loves food too. I said, Eric, oh my God, Ivan Orkin, he's walking in the front door here. So they came in and the three of them were super low key, super fun. I showed them the oven. They'd already done a lot of homework. So it was just really a matter of them seeing it. They didn't even want to test bake in it. And I mean, I don't have any conventional sales words of wisdom other than, for me, what works best is just being myself, being transparent, being as knowledgeable about the product as possible. But if it doesn't work for somebody, I'm also very happy to say to somebody, whoever it is, I don't think this is going to work for you. And I've had the occasion to do that. I don't believe in hardcore sales techniques. I don't believe in pitches. I just believe in engaging in a conversation, just like you and I are right now.
You believe in connecting people to the right product if it fits their needs. I'd love to dive in a little bit on that. But before I ask that, what pizzeria did they work at? Just out of curiosity, those first people?
Mike Bergerman was opening Corner Slice in New York City, Hell's Kitchen. He's still open. They're still open. And I still, on occasion, I communicate with them. And if I'm in the area, I pop in and see them. So that's what I love the most, is I still have relationships with the people that I've worked with selling an oven. I love that.
That's amazing. When it comes to connecting people, I will not speak for everyone, but I definitely think Pizza Master is the upper echelon of ovens. And I think people are quick to see, oh my gosh, Brian Spangler's using it. Oh my gosh, Pauly G, right? These top name people are making pizzas, and for good reason. We could talk about like the difference between using that electric oven and a deck oven. But you mentioned earlier, the oven's not for everyone.
It isn't for everyone. And there's variables that come into play. They may not have the electrical power to run it. They may not have the space to run it. For some folks, they may not have the financial resources to buy a new oven. I've seen a transition from folks using wood-fired ovens to this oven because it's easier to train on, basically. It's easier to train somebody so that they're not married to being the only one operating their wood-fired oven. They may be able to get a day off, maybe a few hours off.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's fair that you help people realize that. And I think I've worked a wood-fired oven with Brian Spangler before, and we did a pop-up together.
And, you did?
Yeah, in Oregon.
I just talked to Brian yesterday.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did a pop-up together, and I launched it in the Taylor. I'm sorry, Taylor, if you're listening to this.
Oh, I know who Taylor is. I know Taylor.
Yeah. Them two are very close. And I launched my first pizza in a wood-fired oven, and oh my goodness, just being in front of that thing was a little intimidating. But when I look at a Pizza Master, it kind of is less intimidating. And I don't know, and I've been right up close to one. I haven't officially launched a pizza, but I didn't get that same sort of fear.
Well, I think there are less variable. I mean, when you're dealing with dough and pizza, there's so many variables that affect the outcome. And for people who are making pizza, one of the things they strive for is consistency in their product, because that's what their guests expect. And they'll notice if it's not the same. So with wood-fired, you've got all the environmental variables, and then you're really having to stay in tune with the fire of the oven versus a Pizza Master oven. It's settings. You set the oven up for whatever style of pizza you want, and then you can have different operators, and you can achieve a more consistent result, I think.
So when people are looking for the Pizza Master oven, I don't want people to be...
Yeah, it doesn't have to...
An electric oven, right? When people are looking for that, they're looking for the consistent bakes. And I think earlier I was mentioning they are more consistent than a deck oven because they hold their heat better. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
How?
Yeah, they're designed to be much more efficient and consistent and energy efficient.
Now, I've always heard like Pizza Master ovens are like, they use up a lot of energy. And so is it just a different type of energy that's used? And when you tally it all up, it actually may work out better for you than using gas or even wood?
Yes. The ovens use the most energy when they are turned on because they come to temp in about 25 minutes. When you turn the oven on, it goes into turbo mode.
Just spikes
and
up
that
there.
Turbo mode is just to, spike up get it to temperature quickly in about 25 minutes. And then once it reaches temp, it drops to about a third of the energy usage. So they're energy efficient enough that they qualify for energy rebates in many of the states in the United States. And, more and more folks in this country is moving toward, for environmental reasons, it's greener to use electric commercial cooking equipment, even home cooking equipment versus gas or coal or wood. There will always be a place for all of those, though. I mean, I really do believe, hopefully, there will always be choices for people to make.
Yeah, I don't think that it would be the worst idea for people to lose their gas ovens and go to electric, at least from, what I've been reading and in terms of just the inefficiency. Because I feel like when people get into the pizza game, to me, it seems like they want to at least make a living for themselves, for their family, and to even grow a business. And it feels like the key to being able to scale up a business is to lock in your production and produce enough for the people that you're serving, and ideally more. And I feel like the challenges that I'm always seeing from the old school pizzeria makers to the new school, or to like upgrading and all the new school people are like considering this option, is that when I'm doing gas, quality is suffering, right? And that's kind of where electric ovens save the day.
And I think they also, what I hear is when they're in high production mode, say Friday night, that they're constantly trying to adjust the temperature in their ovens to keep up with the demand, because the oven is losing heat and can't keep up. So I hear that frequently, and that's why a lot of my guests that come to Test Bake want to see, can this keep up, basically?
I went to Pizzeria Regina in Boston, and they quoted me, I think, 20 minutes for a pizza. And at the end of it all, it ended up being an hour because there was a Celtics game right before. And then the pizza was just like, it was almost cold. Like, it was very pale. It was different from all the pictures. And as someone who understands it, I was definitely more forgiving. But like for the person who, isn't so aware of what's going on in the back, it's just like, this is a subpar product. It's not pleasing. And so that's definitely something you got to take into consideration. But like a place like Pizzeria Regina that's been there for so long, I don't know if they have to like retrofit their entire kitchen just to be able to accommodate an oven like that.
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think the public has become better educated about food in general. I think their expectations are higher, and not that they're necessarily educated, but I think they have this false sense of, I know that this could be better, without, as you mentioned before, not fully understanding what may be going on in the back of the house and the challenges. I mean, my heart breaks because I hear these stories too, and about, just the struggles, hiring people, keeping people, just the resources to make the pizza, the ingredients, the costs are just skyrocketing. So there are so many challenges now for particularly small business owners. And that's primarily my customers, and the folks that I work with are small business owners. They're not big chains.
Why haven't the big chains adopted? Or are they, and are they not that interested?
I don't know enough about the big chains because that's not where my experience lies. And I'm okay with that, to be honest. I like, again, the stories. And when you get into big corporate entities of chains, it's not that I wouldn't be willing to work with them, because at the end of the day, people are people are people. But I really like the intimacy of working on projects with small business owners or startups, or maybe somebody who's got, like Paulie G, who's got other restaurants, but it's still Paulie G at the end of the day. He'll call me or text me on a Saturday or Sunday and want to run something by me. And I like that intimacy. That is what gratifies me and makes me feel good.
Yeah. I mean, when you have someone who is that experienced in pizza running things by you, you have a very special privilege of being a part of that conversation and hearing what's going on in the pizza world. And I don't know if you're able to share some of the cooler stories that you've heard working with X Pizzeria, or maybe just any of them that really stand out in your mind. But first, let me make a big shout out to our sponsors. Uni Pizza Ovens is the world's leading pizza oven manufacturer that allows you to make truly great pizza at home. It heats up to 950 degrees Fahrenheit in just around 20 minutes, the perfect temperature to make amazing Neapolitan-style pizza. I also like to make other styles of pizza with it too, like Sicilians, Romans, and New York. Suitable for both home cooks and professional pizza chefs, Uni Pizza Ovens are the perfect addition to any kitchen, and will help you make the best pizza you've ever tasted. Don't settle for anything less than great pizza. Choose Uni Pizza Ovens. Cordo is the #1 olive oil among top pizza chefs, known for its exceptional quality and freshness. The company is motivated by innovation and is dedicated to transparency and quality. Ever since I started using Cordo olive oil in my dough and on top of my pizzas, the flavors are amazing and I am amazed each time I use it. The flavor profile you get with Cordo olive oil is fresh olive oil, and that is unlike any other olive oil you've ever tasted. My affiliate links for all the products mentioned are listed in the show's description. If you choose to use them, thank you. By doing so, you're supporting the show. I appreciate you. And with that, let's get back to the episode.
We just worked on a project with a very high-profile chef in Manhattan, and I went to scope out his new restaurant space to see what would be involved in getting this oven delivered. And it required disassembly, so taking it apart. And basically, when you're in New York City, oftentimes if you're taking a big piece of equipment apart, you're taking it apart on the sidewalk. So taking it apart, getting it into the building, putting it together again. In this case, it had to go over an existing counter. There's always a lot of moving parts and a lot of details that people don't necessarily think about. It's not like, okay, I'm going to order this oven and it's going to just magically be put into its new home. There's a lot that has to be taken into account.
I can imagine how nerve-wracking that is because you just bought, a nice car, essentially a nice car.
A nice car.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's being disassembled and reassembled back into your kitchen.
Yes, you want it to arrive in one piece and in working condition.
In working condition is right, yeah. So talk to me about how if someone wants a pizza master, what is the customer's journey? Do they reach out to you? Do they reach out to a distributor? You had also mentioned a test bake. Walk me through that timeline.
Well, they can definitely go to the MPM FEG website. I'm on Instagram under Lisa Lucy B, and I've had a lot of folks reach out through Instagram. They can go to whatever equipment dealer their preferred equipment dealer is and just say, hey, this is what I want.
Is there a difference between going through you or through an equipment dealer? Is there a benefit to going directly to the distributor?
The benefit, I think, in going to the distributor is, and this probably applies to any product, if they sell through dealers, is the distributor will know, they'll have the most information about the product. But in our case, the case of Pizza Master, they then have to get pricing from the dealer because we don't sell directly. So that's oftentimes one of the first questions. You see a car that you like, as you mentioned, to use that analogy. You want to know, okay, how much is this car going to cost me? And so I get asked that question all of the time, and I can't really answer it because it depends on who they're buying it from. Although we make recommendations about price points, but then once it's in the hands of an equipment dealer, it's their own business, so they can really do whatever they want. But people in the pizza community talk, everybody, they share information. And that's one of the things, actually, I love it. It's a very collaborative community overall. So the information is out there. People talk to each other. They generally know where to go. And I don't often hear if the pricing seems fair. The only time I hear is if the pricing seems out of whack. And at the end of the day, my job is to take care of the people using the pizza oven, as well as the dealers. So I say to everybody that I talk to, if something just doesn't feel right to you, or if you don't feel like, I'm kind of like a matchmaker. When I first talk to somebody, I give them choices because I think everybody deserves to have options and choices. And I give descriptions of what their dealer choices are. In my mind, as I'm speaking with them, I'm already formulating an idea of who, and I'll tell them that. And I'll say, this is why I think this would be a good person. There are 2 national dealers that sell Pizza Master in this country. And then there are lots of regional dealers.
So once they find their dealer, talk to me about that test bake because, kind of like going back to the car analogy, you might want to drive the car just a bit to see if it's the right fit. What have you seen during people's test bakes and how do they book one?
They generally have to get in touch with me because I'm it for at least if they want to come to the Connecticut location, if they're East Coast-ish. So it involves a bit of a trek for somebody. I think the furthest person I had was Justino. He came from Virginia. That's probably my furthest, but I've had people come from Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, lots. So people have come in, they've committed the time and the resources to come do a test bake to try it out. And we have other test kitchens. There's one in California. We have a test kitchen in Wheeling, Illinois, which is where the corporate office for Pizza Master is. I mean, you can find a test site by going through our website, or in the case of the Northeast, I'm very accessible. People reach out to me and we try to coordinate our schedule. And then they bring in their product. I have all of the necessary tools. And generally, when we speak on the phone, I want to know what style pizza they want to make, what they normally like to bake at, and if they need anything special that I don't have that I can get for them, so that when they come in, they have a successful test baking. I've been able to eat a lot of really great pizza. And I would say, by and large, 95% of the people that come are really passionate and committed to their craft. Really, I mean, my pizza palate has become educated and refined. It's quite fun.
That sounds like one of the best parts of the job is to be there for their test bake and then try their pizza out. Yeah.
I'm just there to kind of guide their journey. They bring in their product. I go over the basics, answer their questions, but I really want people to have a hands-on, I want a play experience. And I frequently say to folks that sometimes what you rule out is as important in terms of like test baking. What you find doesn't work for you is as valuable, if not more valuable, than what does work for you. It's a learning experience, and it's a journey. So when they come in, they're transporting their dough. That changes the baking variable, right? Because if you've had your dough fermenting for 24, 48 hours, and then you transport it in your car for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, that temperature and that environmental impact changes the outcome of your product. When people come to test bake, they know right off the bat, this is either a yes or a no. And fortunately, I would say 99% of the people that walk out the door feel like, okay, this is something that could work for me. And they may not have it completely dialed in, but they know. I mean, people know, especially experienced pizza makers. It's so much fun to watch because there's so much intuition that also goes into it. There's the knowledge and the intuition that comes together. And it's really fun to watch those two pieces come together and to hear their process. I've learned so much. Every time somebody comes, I learned something, and I love learning. So my baking has been greatly enhanced by the wisdom of everybody that's walked through the door.
I bet all of their baking tips just come to you and you're like, oh, I can apply that in the home kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I am a passionate home baker and have been since I was a little kid.
What's your pizza style at home?
I have to say, I really like Detroit. And part of it is easy because it's a pan. So if I have friends over, it's so much easier than pulling out. I've got an uni, pulling out my uni and making rounds and being concerned that it's going to come out okay versus putting it in the pan. I can just let it proof. And then when I want to bake it, top it, bake it, and then serve guests. And I like cheese. I like the fricka. So Detroit's probably my go-to. How about you? What's yours?
I am a huge fan of pan pies, whether it's a Sicilian or a Detroit. One of my earlier pizza memories, aside from growing up on this West Coast pizza chain called Round Table, is this pan pie it was actually a Filipino chicken joint. And they randomly had pizza. And it was this thick Sicilian pizza. And it tasted like it had way too much yeast in it. It had that like alcoholic kind of fermenty taste, but oh my gosh, I can just remember that thing so vivid. And yeah, and I think it really made a mark in my heart for Sicilian or pan pies, really.
Yeah, my mother-in-law was Sicilian through and through. She would make pan pizzas that were so good. And that was many years ago before I even knew what that was. Yeah, she was one of my inspirations too. She taught me a lot about Italian food and cooking.
Now, Sicilian pizzas can be made in electric ovens. Maybe you can talk about some of the settings that you have to be able to do that? Because from my understanding, it's not just like a temperature control, but it's also top and bottom heat. How is that ideal for pizza making?
When you're baking in this type of oven with the top and the bottom heat, generally you want more heat on the bottom if you're baking in a pan because you want it to cook through. I have journals, actually now 2 full journals of all of my guests that have come to visit, my notes and their settings, and my notes about their settings. And I started the journal thinking this is going to be easy because if somebody comes in and wants to make a New York style pizza, for instance, I'll know for everybody that they're going to bake at 600 degrees. It's going to be a top heat setting of 9 and a bottom of 1. That's what my intention was. I quickly learned that although I have some basic starting points, that what works for one person making New York style may not work for another making New York style. There's so many, again, variables. What's your dough hydration? What's the fermentation process like? How long has it been proofing? There's so many variables. So my journal is filled with all different kinds of settings. I just know the general rule of thumb is more bottom heat when you're baking in a pan, more top heat when you're just baking directly on the stone. And I have seen the gamut. So I generally start low with a lower temperature, especially wood-fired people who are used to baking in a big dome oven where there's a lot of heat loss. They are used to having a much higher temperature to get that bake. So we can sometimes come in 100 degrees less in a deck oven because, first of all, the chamber is much narrower. It's much more insulated. I mean, there is no right answer. It's really whatever works for you. And we figure it out. I generally have some starting points and then we adjust as we need to.
I'm actually curious to know what your starting points are. Like if I were to say, hey, Lisa, I'm coming in with my New York dough, looking for a more modern style with a crispy bottom, but like a nice char, like what would you tell me to start off with? I bet you're the person to be able to say, oh, let's start here.
Yes, I always start at 590 degrees. And then usually the sweet spot is between 590 and maybe 620. Generally, I see people go up from there, not go down. Most people want some char, some color on their pizza these days. Although I have had people come in who want an albino-ish pizza, something very blonde. I would say that is the minority. Most people have, I think, come to realize that color is flavor.
Do you think those people just want to be able to keep up and they're not looking for like that darker brown style, the one that like is so popular today and delicious? I'm thinking of like, I don't know, I'm thinking of like an old school pizzeria who just wants to stay true to whatever style they were making in the past, or not. It doesn't have to be old New York, but like they just want to stay true to their old recipe, but they want to be able to maybe keep up with demand. And that's why they want a pizza master.
I mean, are we talking about the people who make the blonde pizza?
Yeah. Why are they interested in a pizza master?
I've asked that question. The answer to the question consistently seems to be, well, that's what my customers want. They would call color burnt. So it's not necessarily their preference. It's what their demographic is asking for.
And maybe, I guess the follow-up question to that is, then why are they shopping for Pizza Master? Is it the energy savings? Is it to keep up with production? Are those the reasons that they're there?
Yeah, and you can do blonde. You can do blonde in a Pizza Master oven if that's your preference. You can do whatever color you like.
Okay, good to know. Now, for going back to New York's 590 to 620, what about those?
The settings?
The setting dials, yeah. And maybe you can give a brief primer on what those are and do.
I mean, very basically, the top heat setting and the bottom heat settings go from 0 to 10, and you can adjust them up or down. As I said, using the New York style pizza as an example. You generally want the more top heat. So I've seen folks successfully bake at, say, a top heat setting of 9 and a bottom of 1, keeping in mind that there are elements that run along the ceiling of each deck and also underneath the stones. The top heat setting, those top elements do radiate down. To use my buddy Drew's analogy, think of sun on sand. And I think that's a perfect analogy. You can burn your feet, even though the sun's shining down onto the sand. So it does impact. So I'll see something like 9-1 for New York style, maybe a bake of 590 or 600 degrees. We're usually in the 600 degree range. But the other day I had somebody come in successfully. Our settings was 600 degrees, and they did a top of 7 and a bottom of 3. And they were very happy with their New York rounds. So there's some variables, but usually we're in that range.
That in itself, to be able to make that recommendation is kind of like, it's almost a craft too. To be able to understand that and say, I think this would be where you should start is a skill. It's a very cool skill.
Well, it comes from some experience. I've done hundreds and hundreds of demos, so I'm always learning. So I know starting points, I know how to adjust, and most times we are successful.
And just out of curiosity, does Lindustry use a pizza master?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
He's getting one.
He is? Okay. Maybe he was using a different electric oven before?
He's opening in a new location in Manhattan.
Gotcha. I want to know what his bake is, because when I think of like the new age New York style pie, I think of his.
Frank Tutelamondo has also baked out of the ovens when he's done for Mama's too. Frank is wonderful, and as you most likely know, just an incredibly talented baker. I mean, the sandwich flavor profiles that he comes up with blow me away. Every Wednesday when I see his post, I'm like, how do you even think of this stuff? He had used the oven. He had asked me if he could use it. We don't do this anymore. This was pre-COVID. And he wanted to use the oven because he knew it would keep up with the demand, because he had lines of people waiting for his pizza. So I guess that's a testimonial to the fact that he could keep up with it, feeding droves of people for hours on end. He's been a big fan, even though in his current location, he has Marcel's.
Speaking of festivals, I'm rocking my Chicago Pizza Festival t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. Steve Delinsky.
Yes, and I know that Pizza Master was there supplying the heat and really keeping the lines moving. I feel like I discovered Zaza's Pizza because of that festival, and they're doing some amazing stuff over there. And I really appreciate the type of crust that you can get with an electric oven. I feel like that's why I'm so excited about these things.
I mean, I think the misnomer is that an electric oven will not produce the same flavor or the same result. I don't think that that's necessarily true. And I think most people will tell you that. I mean, once they've had the experience of working out of one.
I think, you can get the desired results you want if you have the skill and you have the knowledge. Like, the oven does matter to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, it does. Yeah, but also, I mean, your dough. What's good dough? I mean, what's good dough is dough that is made by somebody who really understands what goes into those simple ingredients, yet there are so many variables that affect the outcome. And they also have, they put their heart into it. You can feel when somebody really loves their craft and knows what they're doing.
So if you have good dough and you love your craft, you can make good pizza in many ovens. It doesn't have to be electric.
Oh, definitely. You can. Yes, I would definitely say that is true. It could be a home oven. It can be any brand oven. I think that's what's most important.
It could be even in a wood-fired oven made by Mara Forney.
Even maybe a Mara Forney oven. Definitely. Yes. Yes.
I think with the time we have left, maybe it's a good time to segue and let the audience know that you are going to be taking on a new role at a different company.
I am. I'm going to be joining the Mara Forney family, and I am super excited about it. All going to go down in a couple of weeks. I'll be at Expo standing in the Mara Forney booth. And I think I'm most excited because Mara Forney ovens are made here in the United States. And I love the fact that I'm working for a company that is deeply embedded in the pizza community and the pizza culture, shares my passion, certainly, shares my values. And I'm excited because I will also get to learn about different ovens. They're introducing, and they have introduced actually an electric deck oven also. A lot of folks aren't aware of that yet. It will be, I believe, in fact, I'm almost 100% certain that the electric duck oven will be at Expo. So they are introducing electric duck oven, but they also have all the other styles of ovens to appeal to folks who want to do wood-fired or, some people nowadays want to have an electric deck oven alongside a wood-fired oven. They want the electric deck oven for maybe their pan pies, and they want their wood-fired for their rounds, their Neapolitan, whatever. So I think there's enough to go around for everybody. And I really believe equal opportunity ovens, again, it's a vehicle. It connects the community. And so I'm super excited about joining Mara Forney. Whole new life chapter, but with the same people, which is what's the best is I get to still see and stay connected to the people that I really care about in this community.
I love that. I mean, at the end of the day, you're still working in pizza, so you still get to wake up every morning and be like, wow, I love this.
Yep, I love this. I love these people, and I love and respect the passion and the commitment.
What are some of the challenges that you think you'll face going into your new role?
Well, first of all, learning the different types of oven. As you said earlier on, I don't know much about wood-fired ovens, but I've always wanted to learn about them. I've always wanted to learn how to work out of one. I will have more management responsibilities. Working for Mara Forney, I'm going to be managing, I think it's from Virginia on up into Eastern Canada. And Mara Forney sells through rep groups and equipment dealers. So there's an additional layer, but that also provides additional support for me and infrastructure to both me and to the people using the oven. So I don't know yet. If we have this conversation in a month, I probably could give you better answers. I just know, I'm both nervous and excited because it's a whole new chapter. I worked for MPM for 13 years. So this is just a new chapter in my life, but I am appreciative and grateful that they gave me the opportunity. I'm also appreciative and grateful that you reached out and you were thinking outside of the box and asking me this kind of unicorn that doesn't really fit into sales, doesn't really fit into the pizza making community, but I love both. And I don't really know anybody else that does what I do. So you're the first person that's ever been interested and asked me about my story. So thank you.
Who wouldn't be interested? I mean, when you think about it, you, like you said, are a unicorn. You have a unique perspective. Everyone does. But also shoot, how many people get to do 200 test bakes from top pizza makers, right? I mean, the people who look at Pizza Master Ovens or even Mara Forney are thinking, what is the best oven to excel at my business? And they're really considering those options as what is going to take them, that much higher. And to be working with that group of people, gosh, you must have a lot of knowledge as you've explained here on the show. So I'm glad you're on.
Yeah, the oven, whatever oven it is, let's face it, the dough is the base, the foundation, integral. But the oven is the heartbeat of the pizzeria or the restaurant. So it's an important component.
I like to ask these two questions before I end the show. What's one mistake in pizza business or life that people can avoid?
I think losing sight of your own self. I think in the chaos and the stress and the pace of our lives these days, it's easier to lose authenticity. I don't know how to really be different than I am. And sometimes that gets me into trouble because I'm not a very good actress. In fact, I'm a terrible actress. And as I said before, I don't really fit into any one category. So kind of what you see is what you get. Don't lose sight of yourself and who you are as a person. Don't lose your heart. Don't give it up to anybody or anything. And if you find yourself doing that, then look deep inside and see if you can open another door to another life's journey.
What do you do personally to guide yourself back onto your path if you ever get off of it?
There are a few things that really help me. I've always written poetry. I have lots of poems. So I've always written poetry. It's always been a passion of mine. I also journal, especially when if I'm feeling like I'm going into the rabbit hole or the dark place. I like to write things down. It makes me feel better. Another place that I really find comfort and I find myself is by just getting outdoors into nature, being in the woods, or even walking into my backyard and looking up at the night sky and just taking a deep breath. That centers me. And then, my family really helps tether me to this earth and to my meaning and to my purpose. Those are the three things, I guess.
That's beautiful. I love that you write so much, from writing in your pizza journal to writing in your poems, wherever you keep them. I'm a huge fan of journaling. I write down a lot of my thoughts, but I also find that for me, I relate with the whole getting outdoors. It's been raining a lot here in San Jose, and I think because of that, there have been some snow accumulating at the very top of Mount Hamilton, which is like, if you ever see snow in San Jose, it's almost non-existent. So when it is there, you can't just help but stare at it. And even for me, just to go outside and just, even if I can't drive over there because it'll take me a couple of hours in the day, just going out and looking and reveling at it definitely brings me back. And, it centers me. I also want to take this time to remind everyone that it's so important to take a break. So important to play, to have balance, and that we live in a world where it's go, 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 where you're always being reminded that you have a place to go, or you have to go somewhere to live a meaningful life. But at the end of the day, it's cool to just breathe, be with your family, appreciate small things, and give yourself space so that you can be, I don't know, for me at least, I need that space to be more productive in life. Because if I just go, go, go all the time, I end up spiraling down, and it's not a good place to be. Lisa, I learned a lot. You came here to really, you represent being a unicorn, and I love hearing that you are one. And I love that I had the opportunity to share your story. So thank you.
Thank you so much for letting me tell it.
The floor is yours. What do you want to leave the audience with today?
I guess one of the things I'm excited about is meeting more of you. Wearing a Mara Forney hat versus a Pizza Master hat will probably introduce me to new people. I'm happy that I've been given this opportunity at this stage of my life to do something new and different and challenging, yet still within the community culture. I look forward to seeing all of you and meeting more of you on the other side of this video. And hopefully many of you will be at Expo.
I love that. I think you are the perfect person to represent any oven company or any brand in pizza because of your welcoming personality, your good listening skills, and Mara Forney is lucky to have you. And I'm excited to talk to you again at Expo.
And I'm excited to meet you in person at Expo. You're going to get a big hug.
I love it. I can't wait for it.
Well, that's soon. At the end of this month, I will be seeing you.
Thank you for being on the show, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. My episode with Lisa Wiernasz. I hope you enjoyed that one. And if you did, please go check out Lisa's Instagram page and say hi. Wish her well and good luck at her new job. In the show notes, you're going to find her information as well as mine. Check out both of our Instagram pages and say hi. Can I ask you for a quick favor? If you enjoyed this show, I would love it if you sent it to a friend. I need your help in growing the show, and word of mouth is the absolute best way to help grow this podcast. Another way to help me grow it is to subscribe and or follow the show. Depending on your listening platform, make sure you click that subscribe or follow button. That way you'll get notified anytime there is a new episode. Last but not least, if you haven't given a rating for the show yet, please do that. It helps other listeners find the show. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. I want to leave you with this one quick tip. Have you checked out our website? I've been doing a lot of work on the website, and it is very clean, if I do say so myself. It has a very functional search bar where you can search for your favorite pizza podcast, for pizzerias that have been on the podcast that represent a certain city. It's all on there. Check out letsgodough.com. You're going to love it. I appreciate you for listening. I love you. Till next time. Peace. Are you looking to scale up your pizza operation? You know that in order to make more dough, you have to literally make more dough. That is why I'm thankful for our show sponsor, Pleasant Hill Grain. They are North America's distributor for FAMAG mixers. As a FAMAG user myself, dough production has never been easier. I'm able to crank out large batches with no sweat, leaving me more time to work on my business than in my business.